State authority refers to the power held by government to control what happens in the country, including the ability to make, enforce, and uphold the laws for the welfare of the public. State authority plays a crucial role in maintaining order, providing public services, and protecting individual rights. In most systems, this authority operates through three main branches, which are legislative, executive, and judicial. In Western political traditions, state authority is typically grounded in a secular legal system with clear separations of powers and sovereignty as foundational principles. Legitimacy is often derived from democratic processes where authority is granted by the people. The system is structured to prevent the abuse of power through checks and balances. For example, in the United States of America, the US government is based on the secular constitution that separates powers into three main branches, which are legislative or Congress, executive led by the President, and judicial, also known as Supreme Court. The authority is derived from democratic election, and the rule of law ensures that no one is above the law. In Islamic political traditions, state authority is based on divine sources which are Quran and Sunnah. These sources guide both legal frameworks and moral obligations, forming a comprehensive approach to governance. Authority must align with Sharia law that emphasizes justice, accountability, and service to the community or ummah. For example, the implementation of Sharia in aspects of law and governance. This research aims to achieve the following objective. The first objective is to examine the foundation of legitimacy in both Western and Islamic political tradition. The second one is to explore the concept of separation of powers in both Western and Islamic political traditions. And the last objective is to compare the role of the state between Western and Islamic political traditions.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Aisyah. So I will be presenting a foundation of legitimacy. So in this section, we will explore how the concept of legitimate political power is understood in both Western and Islamic political traditions, even though both systems aim to establish a just and effective government. They are based on very different worldwide. So let's begin with the Western political traditions. In these traditions, legitimacy comes from human concerns and logical legal principles. The foundation of this view is the social contract theory, which emerged during the Enlightenment. Key thinkers like Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Rousseau argued that people in a state of nature agreed to form a government to protect their rights and maintain order. For example, Locke believed that the government's power is only valid if it is based on the consent of the people. If the government fails to protect their rights, the people have a moral rights to resist or even overthrow it. Therefore, concepts like popular sovereignty, the rule of law, and democratic elections are closely tied to legitimacy in the West. It's important to note that Western legitimacy is secular, meaning that it is separate from religion. What matters are civil rights, legal process, and constitutional structure. Institutions like free election, independent and judiciary, and freedom of speech are seen as essential to legitimate power. Now, let's move on to the Islamic political traditions. Unlike the Western model, the Islamic tradition views legitimacy as a divine trust known as amanah. Political authority is considered a duty given by Allah to humans as His viceroys or Khalifah on earth. In Islam, legitimacy depends on the ruler's obedience to the Quran and the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad, which is the government must implement Sharia, promote justice, and maintain public welfare. A ruler is only considered legitimate if they uphold values like adl, which is justice, amanah, trustworthiness, mas'uli, which is accountability, and shura, which is consultations. Unlike the Western model that focuses on public opinions, Islam focuses on the ruler's moral and religious integrity. Although mechanisms like shura and bay'ah involve community participations, they are based on Islamic principles, not on modern democratic elections. Ultimately, a ruler is accountable to Allah, not to just the people. So, in conclusion, The foundation of legitimacy in both traditions is deeply rooted in their respective worldviews. The Western tradition emphasizes human consent, democracy, and legal frameworks, while the Islamic traditions, on the other hand, sees legitimacy as a divine responsibility where rulers must align their governance with religious principles and accountability to God. Despite these differences, both systems aim to achieve justice, good governance, and social stability. By understanding these foundations, we can better appreciate how different political systems define and uphold legitimate authority. So that's all from me.
Understanding how power is shared within a government is important when trying to judge how fair and effective that government is. This presentation examines how the concept of separation of power functions in both Islamic and Western political systems. Each system is based on different core belief and tradition, and they use different methods to manage authority and leadership. Now, let's explore how these two approaches compare. Let's begin with the Islamic view on separation of power. In Islamic political thought, there is no strict separation of powers like in Western system. Instead, power is seen as a trust from Allah and humans are His representative or Khalifa on earth. Because of this belief, the different roles of government, like making laws, enforcing law, and interpreting laws, often overlap. A ruler might hold all three powers. However, this doesn't mean unlimited power. Leaders are bound by Sharia or divine law and guided by moral responsibility. A key part of Islamic governance is shura or consultation. Leaders are expected to seek advice from scholars and the community before making decisions. The Islamic system does rely on formal check and balances. Instead, it focuses on moral accountability. Leaders are answerable to God and the people, and they must act with justice, honesty, and fairness. This is called mas'uliyah or responsibility. In summary, Islamic governance unifies power, but it places strong religious and ethical boundaries on how that power is used. Now let's move on to the Western perspective. Western political systems are built on the principle of separation of powers, where government is divided into three independent branches. The legislative, which makes law, the executive, which carries them out, and the judiciary, which interprets and applies law. These branches are kept separate to prevent abuse of power and to ensure fairness. They also monitor each other through a system called checks and balances. For example, courts can declare executive action unconstitutional. Legislatures can override executive vetoes or even impeach officials. The Western model believes in sovereignty, meaning power comes from the people. Through election and democratic institutions, citizens choose their leaders and hold them accountable. This system is designed to promote transparency, fairness, and accountability in government. In summary, Western governance separates power into distinct branches, using legal systems to ensure that each branch stays within its limit. Both systems aim for justice, but in different ways. Islamic governance unifies power under moral and divine law, while Western systems divide power through legal structures and public accountability.
My name is Ifa Kamarudin, 304145. Today I will talk about the role of the state in Western and Islamic political tradition. First, the role of the state in the West is very different from the role of the state in Islam. In the Western system, the state is created by the people. This idea is called the social contract. In Islam, the state is a religious institution that follows the law of Allah SWT. The social contract theory was introduced by three important thinkers, which is Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and John Jacques. This theory says that the government is formed by agreement of the people. The government gives security and freedom to the people. Power does not come from God and it comes from the people. For example, in the United States, people choose their leader through election. The government is not based on religion. Now I will explain about liberalism, which is another important idea in Western politics. Liberalism focuses on individual freedom, human rights, and limited government, and also rule of law. Liberalism say that the government should protect the right of the people and allow them to live freely. There are two types of liberalism, which is classical liberalism and classical liberalism by John Locke. Say the state must protect life, freedom and property. Modern liberalism say that the government should also provide education, healthcare and help with social justice. Now I will explain the differences between Western and Islamic political system. Western and Islamic political system are very different in many ways. Firstly, source of power. In the Western system, power comes from the people. The government is made through a system called the social contract. The main goal of the Western state is to protect freedom, human right and justice. But in the Islamic system, power comes from Allah SWT. The government must follow Sharia law and the state is based on religion. Next, role of religion. In the West, the government is separate from religion. It's called secularism. But in Islam, religion and politics are together. The law comes from the Quran and Sunnah. Other than that, is system of government. The Western system use election. This is a separation of power. For example, like the executive and legislative. In the Islamic system, there are shura, which is main consultation, but it's not like public voting. It follow the Quran and Sunnah. Leadership and responsibility. In the Western system, leader are responsible to the people. But in the Islamic system, leader are responsible to Allah SWT and also to the people. The leader is we call a caliph, and he must follow Islamic value to protect the people.
In conclusion, both Western and Islamic political traditions have different foundations of legitimacy. The Western traditions is based on democracy, public consent and secular laws. For Islamic political tradition, it is based on divine authority where rulers are accountable to Allah and the people. Despite the differences, both systems aim to promote justice, good governance and social stability. Western systems emphasize the separation of powers, while Islamic governance combines religious and political authority guided by moral and religious principles. In terms of the state's role, in the Western model, the state gets its power from the people and protects freedom, justice and individual rights through a liberal democratic system. In the Islamic model, the state gets its power from Allah and is responsible for applying Sharia and serving the people according to Islamic principles.